ago.
One of the things that really, another thing that stood out for me was the fact that, you know, unlike today where you can come out and it can be an okay process, back in his time, Roman couldn't do that. You mentioned that he had two choices. He could either commit suicide or he could stay in the closet. Talk a little bit about that and the decision he made to stay in the closet.
Yeah, I mean, he, you know, he had told us, and we heard he had friends and contemporaries, and I guess there was sort of an underground scene in Poland, some unspeakable kind of, you know, secrets, and he had friends who did take their lives, and you know, as he attests to in the film, he chose to live, and yeah, a lot of that I think he attributes that to his mother and just the love that he had instilled in him. And it was a choice he made that, and I think it's probably something he struggled with for the entirety of his life is whether he should have or should have not. But so yeah, obviously very difficult time to be Jewish, clearly in Poland, and gay on top of that. So you know, just sort of attests to the strength of them as individuals.
Okay. This isn't just the story of Roman, it's the story of Roman and Ruth and the rest of the family. Talk about how it affected the rest of the family as well.
Yeah, we definitely went through a lot of stages of the family processing everything. The first was very happy, you know, when Roman was able to get this off his chest, and we finally got to know who he really was. And then after that, the logistics of, you know, making both of them happy took a toll on our mother, the one with the pink hair in the film. Yeah, it was really hard to make both of them happy, especially when Roman started saying that he wanted to live in a separate apartment, and just the day-to-day, just making them happy.
Yeah, just to touch on that, it really was this range of emotions. I mean, it was this sort of jubilation and excitement, and you know, we have a very progressive family and people were excited for Roman, but then it quickly took this turn to sort of the realities of actually fulfilling the needs that he was demanding. It wasn't sort of, you know, as I'm sure there's people in this room who have cared for their parents, and that in its own, it comes with a host of very difficult challenges, but on top of that, you know, there was this sort of like desire for companionship with other men. So you could imagine, you know, our mother and aunt who sort of were really kind of wanting to do everything they could, but found themselves sort of like at odds in the situation.
Okay. I want to ask one more question, then I want to turn it over to the audience. But just talk to me a little bit about you two as filmmakers and documenting this process. How long have you been doing it?
Yes, I mean, Skyler and I have worked together on just kind of projects for fun, and both been working in media and film for a while. I think this was a great opportunity for us to really dive into something that was more substantial from a length standpoint, storytelling. I can say that from, you know, documentary is my passion, and there were times when I was very much able to kind of use the camera as an intermediary between what was going on and separate myself. And then there were times when I couldn't. It was tough. I mean, there's a part that I'm sort of, I cringe a little bit in the film. You can hear sort of this like moaning when they're kissing each other, and that is me, because I'm like, I can't. It's like so unbearable to be in the room and witness this kind of like heart-wrenching moment. But for the most part, I think like I really tried to have a real sort of professional, wear my documentarian hat and document just the truth of what was going on. I don't know, it's kind of a process or.
Yeah, no, I think that like Brandon said, it was a cathartic way to deal with everything, and I think that we talked about it as a family a lot more just because the project was there. We were filming, we knew we had to film. There are scenarios where we got a lot of people in a room, which may not have happened, to talk about everything that was going on. It was like our cousins and our aunts. So making the movie actually was a really good way to deal with everything that was going on at that time.
Okay, why don't we take some questions from the audience? Any questions?
So in the scene where they meet with a therapist, you didn't hear the therapist talk, and I kept wondering, I felt so bad for your grandma, and I just wonder what happened that wasn't on camera. How did he help them? Did he help them? Did he help her? I mean, I know they both needed help, but I really felt for her in that scene, because he was extremely selfish, even though I know he went through a painful life. But anyway, can you elaborate on what happened during that time?
Yeah, he didn't help that much, is the short version of that answer. But I think that having him there opened her up to be in that scenario, to have that conversation. And once he left, actually, there's a part that didn't make it into the film when Roman and Ruth are kind of talking to each other and getting really, really deep. And you see the part where he's being very mean to her. He says things that he doesn't mean, which, a lot of us do to people that we love. So the aftermath of that is, even though that there is a lot of tension in that, they are very good at resolving the issues that they have with each other, which is why they were together for 65 years. But.
Yeah, I think it was a bit of we laugh ourselves at sort of the I guess you'd say seemingly ineffective therapist, but it really was sort of like the release valve. Maybe just having him there was enough, and you could see that our mother is kind of she's a very vocal character, and she almost overpowers the therapist, anyways. So arguably, she may have sort of dominated him in that moment. But yeah, I mean, there was more that happened that you don't see, and there are actually some, even if you can believe it, nastier things are said back and forth. And we struggled with wanting to keep those in the film, and we were going back and forth and felt that there would have been some context lost if we had left it in, and you probably, if you feel the way you do towards Roman, you probably would have felt even more extreme in that way. But we couldn't keep everything in there, and I'll just call out one scene that I think is interesting that to relate to that. I think people there's the moment when Susie, their daughter, is talking about the fact that Ruth didn't have the keys to the house, and the sort of reliance, and that he created his own catastrophe. There is another side to that story that was by design, by her design, because she wanted to keep a watchful eye on him. So, it's storytelling, it's editing, and we try to be as truthful as possible with keeping as much as we could within, the constraints. But thanks for calling it out, and the tough decisions you have to make.
There's a question.
Yeah. So microphone. Thank you very much for the film. Sharing all that. You can't hear?
No.
There you are. Thank you. Hi. Thank you for making the film. I think secrets are always toxic in family relationships, and really any relationship. And if you can transcend and bring out the truth and get beyond it, I think it's so much healthier. Now, your family obviously has had a lot of conversations about the relationship, and in all your reflections, did you ever discuss the possibility if they had come out to the family earlier in life instead of harboring this kind of shadow that was always present in their lives? And probably to a lesser degree, I can only think that the rest of the family, at least some of them, probably had some kind of suspicions that were never explored. Did you ever discuss the possibility of their life, everybody's life going in a different direction if this had come out earlier?
We didn't really play that game of wondering what it would have been like earlier. Yeah.
I thought about it. Why not after the kids had moved out? They kind of had their own life. I think there are different theories around that Ruth would not let him, and that they were just inextricably linked together. And
But and I think another part about that is just like the family unit that they had created. You know, that was a huge part of the movie. I think is like the sacrifice that they had both made. They were committed to that. So even when the kids were out of the house, it was still about keeping the larger family, you know, the grandkids and everything intact. That family unit that they had lost in the war, and that they were now creating again once they came to America.
Yeah, I think it wasn't only really till very recently that like the stigma, you know, is still. I mean, there's still so much stigma in the world around the way people choose to live their lives that I don't think that either of them felt that it would have been something they felt comfortable with doing. Would it have led to sort of a different, you know, different outcome or different circumstances? Of course. And to, you know, but it is tough. Like Skyler said, it's hard to sort of like hypothetically play out like what if this had happened, would they have lived happier lives and more fulfilled lives? Very tough to say. I mean, and so to your follow-up, did anybody suspect, I think there was a lot of, now it all makes sense, a lot in retrospect. I don't think there was a lot, I mean, I had no clue, but definitely.
Yeah, and I mean, our mom and her sister definitely did.